Ancient human warships reappear, older than even the galactic empires themselves. Trembled Captain Jiho stared at the screen, his coffee growing cold in his hand. The numbers made no sense. Nothing should exist in the Void Nebula. Every scan for the past 300 years said the same thing. Empty space. Radiation, nothing more, but the sensors disagreed. Hana, run it again, Jiho said quietly. The science officer's fingers danced across her console. Her dark eyes narrowed as the same impossible readings appeared. Captain, I've run it 17 times. There's something massive in there. Multiple somethings. The energy signatures are off the scale. Doyen, the weapons officer, leaned forward from his station. Could be a trap. The Therixians have been aggressive lately. They don't like humans exploring this sector. The Therixians don't have technology that reads like this, Hana said. She pulled up a comparison chart. Look, this energy pattern predates anything in the Galactic Council archives. By thousands of years. Jiho set down his coffee. The Horizon's Edge was a survey ship, not a warship. They had 30 crew members and enough weapons to scare off pirates. If this was a military threat, they should call for backup. But if this was a discovery, Sora, can you get us closer? He asked the navigator. The young woman's hands moved across the navigation controls. The nebula's interference is strong, but I can thread us through. It'll take 2 hours, do it. Battle stations, just in case. Hana, I want every scanner we have pointed at whatever's in there. The ship moved forward slowly, carefully. The crew worked in tense silence. Humans were still newcomers to galactic space. 300 years ago, they didn't even know aliens existed. Now they shared the galaxy with dozens of species, most of whom had been exploring space for thousands of years. The elder races treated humans like children, naive, primitive, barely. Worth noticing, Jiho had spent his whole career proving them wrong. The nebula's gases parted on the view screen. What appeared made Hana gasp. Doyen swore under his breath. Even Jiho, trained to stay calm, felt his heart skip. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They hung in perfect formation, silent and dark against the cosmic backdrop. Each vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest Therixian dreadnought. Their hulls were black metal that seemed to drink in light. Strange geometric patterns covered their surfaces. Are they active? Jiho asked. No power signatures, Doyen reported. They're completely dead? Have been for... Hana, how long? Hana's voice shook. Based on the spatial decay around them, 50,000 years. Maybe older. The bridge fell silent. 50,000 years. The Therixian Empire was only 30,000 years old. The Vren Collective, the oldest known civilization, had records going back 45,000 years. Nothing was older than the Vren. Nothing should be older. Get us closer to the nearest ship, Jiho ordered. I want a full scan. As they approached, details emerged. The vessels were beautiful in a terrifying way. Every line spoke of purpose and power. These weren't exploration ships. These were warships built by someone who understood violence on a scale Jiho couldn't imagine. Captain, Hana said slowly, I'm picking up markings on the hull. Bringing them up now. The symbols appeared on screen. Jiho's breath caught in his throat. He could read them. They were in Korean. Ancient Korean, the kind his grandmother used to write, but still readable. That's impossible, Sora whispered. Doyun stood up. Someone's playing a trick on us. This has to be fake. But Hana was already shaking her head, pulling up more scans. The linguistic markers are everywhere. And look at this. She displayed a new reading. The doors, the control systems, everything is locked behind genetic recognition protocols. Human genetic recognition protocols. This is insane, Jiho said. But he was already moving toward the airlock. Prep a boarding team. Hana, Doyen, you're with me. Sora, you have the bridge. 20 minutes later, they floated through space toward the nearest warship. Jiho's suit felt thin and fragile next to the massive vessel. Up close, he could see how perfect it was. No damage, no wear. It looked like it had been built yesterday. They found an airlock easily. The symbols beside it were clear. Main entry, authorization required. Jiho reached out, almost without thinking. His gloved hand touched the panel. Light blazed. The panel came alive, scanning him. Ancient text scrolled across the display. Then in a voice that sounded both mechanical and human. It spoke in Korean. Genetic markers confirmed. Welcome home, children of Earth. The airlock opened. Inside, the ship had atmosphere. Lights flickered on as they walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Everything was massive, built for crews of thousands. But it was empty. Silent. They reached what had to be the bridge. It was circular, with dozens of stations arranged around a central command platform. At the center, a holographic projector stood dormant. Hana approached a science station. The console activated at her touch. This is incredible. The interface is intuitive, almost like it's reading my mind. The technology here is... I don't even have words for it. Doyen examined a weapons panel. His face went pale. Captain, these weapon systems. If I'm reading this right, one of these ships could destroy an entire Therixian battle fleet. Alone. Jiho stood at the command platform. There was a clear space shaped for a hand. His hand, he placed it down. The entire ship came alive. Light flooded through every corridor. Systems hummed to life. The view screens blazed with data, and above the command platform a hologram formed. She was human. A woman in a military uniform Jiho had never seen, her hair tied back, her eyes sharp and intelligent. She looked at him with an expression of surprise and sadness. I never thought anyone would wake me, she said in perfect Korean. I am Fleet Admiral Nari, commander of the First Exodus Fleet. And if you're hearing this, then enough time has passed. Enough time for humanity to forget. Forget what? Jiho asked. Nari's hologram smiled sadly. Where you came from. Who you were. What you survived. She gestured around the ship. Earth is not humanity's homeworld. It's where we hid. Where we sent our children to grow in peace, away from the wars that consumed our empire. Hana stepped forward. Empire? What empire? The first one. The oldest one. Nari's eyes grew distant. 50,000 years ago, humanity ruled this galaxy. We built worlds, seeded life, created wonders the current species can barely imagine. We were called the First Builders. But we made mistakes. We grew too powerful too quickly. We woke something that should have stayed sleeping. Something we called the Silence. What happened? Doyen asked. We lost. Not all at once, but slowly, painfully. World after world went dark. Fleets vanished. In the end, we had a choice. Stay and be destroyed, or hide and hope our descendants might find a better way. Nari looked directly at Jiho. This fleet was left behind. A gift and a warning. If you found us, if you can read our language and access our systems, then you are ready. Ready for what? Nari's expression turned grim. The Silence doesn't die. It only sleeps. And if you've awakened this fleet, it means the seals are breaking. It means the Silence is returning. She paused. And this time, you're the only ones who can stop it. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery. Jiho looked at his crew, then back at the hologram. How do we stop something that destroyed an empire? Nari's smile was tired but fierce. The same way humans have always survived. By being too stubborn to give up. Ancient human warships reappear. Older than even the galactic empires themselves, Trembled. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. In the Therixian throne world, the Emperor jow his war council. In the Vren home system, the collective's computational minds processed the implications. On Earth, the planetary government declared a state of emergency. Jiho stood in the conference room of the Horizon's Edge, watching representatives from a dozen species argue on the view screen. They had been arguing for 3 hours. The fleet must be surrendered to the Galactic Council for proper study, the Therixian ambassador insisted. His scales rippled with agitation. No single species can be trusted with such power. Especially not humans, added a Vren delegate, its mechanical voice cold. They are infants in galactic terms. 300 years of space travel against our 45,000. They lack the wisdom to control such weapons. Minho, Earth's representative to the Council, kept his voice calm. The fleet responds only to human genetic markers. We couldn't surrender it if we wanted to. Which we don't. The Therixian ambassador's eyes narrowed. Then we will take it. The screen went dark. Jiho looked at Hana, who had been studying the ancient database nonstop for 3 days. How much of the fleet can we activate? 3 ships are fully operational now. The Eternal Dawn, the Morning Star, and the Last Light. The others need more time. The systems are waking slowly like they're dreaming. She rubbed her tired eyes. Jiho, the things I'm finding in these databases. Our history, our real history. It's beautiful and terrifying. Tell me the terrifying part. The silence destroyed civilizations that had technology thousands of years more advanced than what the current galaxy has, and humanity barely escaped. Doyen entered the conference room, his face grim. Long-range sensors just picked up a Therixian battle fleet. 60 ships, including 5 dreadnoughts. They're headed straight for us. Time until arrival? 4 hours. Jiho walked to the window, looking out at the ancient fleet. The 3 active ships hung beside his tiny survey vessel, dark giants against the stars. Admiral Nari's hologram had explained their capabilities. He still couldn't quite believe it. "Get me Nari," he said. The hologram appeared beside him. "Captain, the Therixians are coming. They want to take the fleet by force." Nari's expression didn't change. "What would you like to do?" "I don't want a war. Earth isn't ready for that. We're not warriors." "Yes, you are," Nari said softly. "You've always been warriors. You just forgot." She gestured to the ancient ships. These vessels were built by humans who understood that sometimes peace requires strength. "Would you like me to handle the Therixians?" Jiho hesitated. The weight of command had never felt heavier. "No killing." "Can you do that?" "I can do that." The Therixian fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 60 warships bristling with weapons, their hulls painted in the red and gold of the Empire. They formed a battlesphere around the ancient fleet and the horizon's edge. The lead ship's commander appeared on screen. His scales were dark blue, marking him as high nobility. "I am Admiral Korvax. You will power down your vessels and prepare to be boarded. This is Captain Jiho of the human survey ship Horizon's Edge. We're in neutral space. You have no authority here." "We have the authority of 60 warships," Korvax said coldly. "You have 1 small survey ship. The mathematics are simple." "You're forgetting 3 ships," Korvax laughed. 3 dead hulks that have been floating in space for 50,000 years? "I am not afraid of relics. You should be," Jiho said quietly. "Nari, show them." The eternal dawn came alive. Light rippled across its hull, a wave of energy that made space itself shimmer. The massive ship moved, smooth and silent, positioning itself between the horizon's edge and the Therixian fleet. Korvax stopped laughing. "That ship just moved." "How did it move without engine signatures?" "Fire a warning shot across their bow," Jiho ordered. Nari's voice was calm. "Understood." The Eternal Dawn didn't fire weapons. Not exactly. Instead, space around one of the Therixian dreadnoughts bent, folded. The massive warship suddenly found itself 20 kilometers from where it had been, spun around, its weapons pointing at its own fleet. Silence filled the communication channel. "That was a warning," Jiho said. "The next demonstration will be less gentle. Leave now." Korvax's scales had gone pale. You moved a dreadnought. Through shields, through armor, like it was nothing." "These ships were built by people who moved planets," Nari said, her hologram appearing on the Therixian's bridge without permission. "Your weapons are children's toys to us. Your shields are paper. We can reach inside your ships and turn off your life support without firing a single shot. We can fold you into a dimension where time doesn't exist. We can rewrite the quantum state of your atoms." She leaned forward. "Or we can simply ask you politely to leave. Your choice." Korvax stared at her for a long moment. "What are you?" "A ghost, a memory. A warning from the past." Nari smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "And if you threaten these humans again, I will show you what human weapons looked like when we ruled this galaxy. You will not enjoy the lesson." The Therixian fleet retreated, all 60 ships jumping to faster-than-light speed without a single shot fired. On the horizon's edge, the crew cheered. Doyen was grinning. Even Hana allowed herself a small smile, but Jiho felt cold. He had just started something. Something big. "Nari, what did we just do?" "You showed them that humanity isn't weak anymore. That you remember who you are. We don't remember. We just found you 3 days ago. Then you're learning quickly." Nari's hologram looked out at the stars. "The Galactic Council will declare you a threat now. Multiple species will prepare for war. Some will seek alliance, others will seek your destruction. That's insane. We're not trying to conquer anyone. It doesn't matter. You have power now. Power that makes empires nervous." She turned to him. "The Council will move against Earth. You need to prepare." Jiho contacted Earth immediately. The conversation with the Planetary Defense Council was heated. Some wanted to hide the discovery. Others wanted to use it to seize power in the galaxy. Admiral Junho, commander of Earth's defense fleet, cut through the arguing. "We need time. Time to understand these ships, time to prepare, time to find allies. Can you buy us that time, Captain Jiho? I'll try. Over the next week, the situation deteriorated. The Galactic Council officially declared humanity a Category 5 threat, a designation reserved for species with planet-destroying capabilities. Trade embargoes were enacted. Human colonies were pressured. War seemed inevitable. But something else was happening too. Hana made a discovery in the ancient database, a file marked with the highest security clearance. When she opened it, her face went white. Jiho, you need to see this. The file contained star charts, thousands of them, showing the galaxy 50,000 years ago. Worlds that no longer existed, civilizations erased from history, and at the center of it all, a wound in space, a tear in reality itself. What am I looking at? Jiho asked. The silence. This is where it came from. Hana pointed to the tear. It's not a species or a weapon. It's something else, something from outside our dimension. And according to these readings, she pulled up current astronomical data. The seal is breaking. Look, she overlaid the ancient star chart with current data. The tear was still there, smaller, sealed by technology Hana couldn't understand. But it was growing. Slowly, steadily, the seal was failing. How long? Jiho asked. Months, maybe a year. And when it breaks? Hana met his eyes. The silence returns, and every species in this galaxy, human or alien, will face what our ancestors faced. Except this time, we don't have 50,000 years of warning. We have less than a year. Jiho looked at the ancient warships through the window. 3 ships active, hundreds more still sleeping. An entire fleet built to fight an enemy that destroyed civilizations. Wake them up, he said. Wake them all up. We're going to need them. Across the galaxy, space began to tear. Small rifts at first, barely noticeable. Ships reported strange readings. Stations detected unusual gravitational fluctuations, and in those tears something waited, something vast and hungry and patient. The silence had been sleeping for 50,000 years. It was waking up. Ancient human warships reappear, older than even the galactic empires themselves trembled. The first colony went silent on a Tuesday. New Vren, an outpost of 12,000 mechanical beings, stopped transmitting. No distress call, no warning. One moment the automated messages flowed normally, reporting mining operations and stellar observations. The next moment, nothing. When the rescue fleet arrived 3 days later, they found the entire colony gone. Buildings empty, equipment running. Not a single Vren remained. On Earth, Admiral Junho stood before the Planetary Defense Council, his gray hair catching the light from the holographic displays. 7 more incidents in the last week. Different species, different sectors. The pattern is clear. Something is taking them. The silence, said Yunji, the civilian scientist who had been studying ancient human ruins on Earth. She projected her findings onto the main screen. I found matching records in ruins beneath Sol. Exact same pattern as what the ancient databases describe. Populations vanishing, technology left behind. No bodies, no evidence. One of the council members, an elderly woman named Ji Wu, leaned forward. How do we fight something we can't see or understand? We find people who fought it before, Junho said. We learn from them. At the ancient fleet, Jiho worked around the clock. 7 ships were now active, but waking them took time and human crew. Each ship required dozens of people to bond with its systems. Yuna was one of the first volunteers. A civilian pilot with more courage than sense, she had walked up to an ancient fighter craft and demanded to try it. The small, sleek vessel had responded to her like it had been waiting. Now she flew patterns through space that should have been impossible. The fighter moved with her thoughts faster than anything in known space. It didn't just respond to controls. It knew what she wanted before she did. This is incredible. Her voice crackled over the comm. It's like the ship is part of me. Jiho watched from the Eternal Dawn's bridge. Nari stood beside him, studying the young pilot with approval. She has the gift. The ancient pilots called it the link. Some humans connect with the ships better than others. We need more like her, Jiho said. We need thousands. Then recruit them. Time is short, but recruiting was complicated. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Some species wanted to ally with humanity. Others wanted humanity destroyed before the ancient fleet became fully operational. Political tensions were at breaking point. Then the Therixian homeworld went dark. 5 billion people. The heart of an empire that had ruled for 30,000 years. Gone. The message came through on all channels. Therixian Emperor Korath, his scaled face showing fear for the first time in recorded history, made a galaxy-wide broadcast. We were wrong. The humans were not the threat. Something else is coming. Something ancient and terrible. We ask for help. We beg for it. The Galactic Council building on Vren Prime became a madhouse. Every species sent representatives. Everyone had reports of missing colonies, strange space-time distortions, ships vanishing. Minyo stood before the assembled council. Captain Jiho has shared the ancient database with Earth's scientists. We know what we're facing. The silence feeds on advanced technology. The more you use against it, the stronger it becomes. That's why ancient humanity couldn't defeat it. Then how do we fight it? Demanded a Therixian general. We don't, not the way you think. Minho pulled up tactical displays. We need a surgical strike. Target the dimensional tiers where the silence enters our reality. Seal them permanently. With what weapons? The ancient human fleet. They were designed for exactly this purpose. Debate raged for hours. Some species refused to trust humanity. Others had no choice. In the end, necessity won. An unprecedented alliance formed, with Earth at its center. Back at the fleet, Jiho faced his own challenges. More ships were waking, but each needed a captain. The AI systems were powerful, but they required human direction, human will. A young man named Siwoo reported for duty. He was barely 25, a tactical officer from a civilian transport. He didn't look like a warrior, but when Jiho tested him on ship simulations, Siwoo's mind worked like ancient battle computers. He saw patterns, understood warfare on an instinctive level. Take the Morning Star, Jiho told him. She's yours. Siwoo stared at the massive warship through the window. I'm not qualified for this. None of us are. But the ships don't care about qualifications. They care about will, about whether you'll stand when everything else falls. Another volunteer, Jisoo, turned out to be a technical genius. She could interface with the ancient engineering systems like she had designed them herself. Within days, she had figured out how to speed up the awakening process. The ships aren't really asleep, she explained to Hana. They're waiting, testing us, making sure we're worthy before they fully commit. Worthy of what? Of their sacrifice. These ships know they might not survive what's coming. They're choosing to trust us anyway. The fleet grew. 12 ships active, then 15. Each one a floating city of weapons and technology beyond modern understanding. But each one also needed crew, and humanity didn't have enough trained people. That's when the unexpected happened. Other species volunteered. A Therixian battle meditation master named Corvin approached Jiho. Your people fight well, but you lack experience. We have thousands of years of war knowledge. Let us help. Vren computational experts offered their processing power to help manage the ship's impossible amounts of data. Smaller species contributed navigation skills, tactics, engineering knowledge. The galaxy was uniting for the first time in recorded history, but the silence was faster. Yunji made a horrifying discovery. The ancient record showed that the silence didn't just take people. It learned from them, absorbed their knowledge, their technology, their very essence. Every colony it consumed made it stronger. We're feeding it, she told the council over a video link. Every attack, every probe, every sensor scan. We're teaching it about us. Then how do we even study it? Junho asked. We don't. We trust the ancient humans. They fought it for centuries. They left instructions. We follow those instructions exactly. The instructions were terrifying in their simplicity. Don't engage the silence directly. Don't try to communicate. Don't use advanced scanning technology near the dimensional tiers. And most importantly, speed matters. The longer the battle takes, the more the silence adapts. Jiho called a meeting of all ship captains. They gathered on the Eternal Dawn's massive conference room. 19 humans now commanded warships that could destroy planets. "I won't lie to you," Jiho said. "Some of us won't come back. The ancient records are clear. This is a suicide mission. We're going to throw ourselves at tears in reality and hope we can seal them before the silence adapts and destroys us." Siwoo spoke up. "When do we leave?" 2 weeks. We need more time to prepare. We don't have 2 weeks. Hana pulled up new astronomical data. The main tear is expanding exponentially. At current rates, it will be impossible to seal in 5 days. The room fell silent. "Then we leave in 3 days, Jiho said. "Ready or not?" Yuna raised her hand. "I've been training fighter pilots. We have 200 ready. Maybe 500 if you give us those 3 days. "Those pilots won't all come back," Jiho said softly. "They know that. They're volunteering anyway." Jisoo added, "The ships are responding faster now. They understand the urgency. I can have 20 vessels fully active in 3 days." Jiho looked around the room at young faces, determined faces, scared faces. None of them had asked for this. They had been thrust into a war that predated their entire civilization, but they were here anyway. "All right," he said. 3 days. Make them count." The galaxy watched and waited. Trade stopped. Military fleets gathered. Civilian populations evacuated from border regions. Everyone knew something terrible was coming. On Earth, monuments were built to the volunteers. Too many monuments. In space, the ancient warships arranged themselves in formation. 20 massive vessels, each carrying crews of humans and aliens working side by side. Hundreds of fighters. Thousands of support ships from a dozen species. Nari appeared on every ship simultaneously, her hologram addressing all crews at once. 50,000 years ago, my crew flew this same mission. We failed. But we bought time. Time for humanity to hide, to grow, to become strong enough to try again. She paused. "You are not us. You are better. You have something we lacked. Unity. You're not just humans fighting alone. You're a galaxy standing together. That might be enough. That might be what finally stops the silence." Hanul, a veteran captain who had lost his family to the silence's recent attacks, spoke for many when he said, "We'll stop it or die trying." "Both, probably," Nari said with a sad smile. "But you'll die well." 3 days later, the fleet departed. 20 ancient warships, hundreds of support vessels, crews from a dozen species. They jumped toward the main dimensional tear, toward the source of the silence. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath. Ahead of them, reality itself was breaking apart. Ancient human warships reappear, older than even the galactic empires themselves, trembled. The dimensional tear hung in space like a wound in reality itself. It was massive, stretching thousands of kilometers across, a hole where the normal rules of physics simply stopped working. Through it, something moved. Not light, not darkness, something between, something wrong. The silence. Jiho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the tear grow larger with each passing moment. Around him, 19 other ancient warships held formation. Behind them, hundreds of support vessels from dozens of species waited. "Range to target?" he asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, Doyen reported. His voice was steady, but Jiho could see his hand shaking slightly on the weapons console. Nari's hologram appeared beside the command chair. "Battle protocols are active across the fleet. All ships report ready status." "But Jiho," she paused, "you should know. My original crew got this far. We stood exactly where you're standing now. And we lost. What went wrong?" "We tried to fight it. We used every weapon we had. The silence absorbed everything we threw at it and became stronger. In the end, we had to retreat and seal ourselves away with it." She looked at the tear. "Don't make our mistake. Don't try to win. Just try to survive long enough to close the door. All ships," Jiho broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. "This is Captain Jiho. Our mission is simple. Seal the tears. Nothing else matters. Not pride, not revenge, not winning. Just seal them and get out alive." He paused. "Good luck. and thank you for being here. The fleet moved forward. As they approached, sensors started failing. Modern equipment couldn't process what it was seeing. Only the ancient ship's technology worked properly, their systems designed specifically for this impossibility. Then the silence responded. Ships began vanishing. Not exploding, not retreating, simply ceasing to exist. A Vren cruiser was there one moment, gone the next, as if it had never been. A Therixian destroyer folded in on itself, crew and all compressed into nothing. All modern vessels fall back, Jiho ordered. Only ancient ships forward. The 20 warships advanced alone. From the tear, shapes emerged. They weren't ships or creatures or anything nameable. They were presences, areas where reality bent and twisted. Where they passed, space itself screamed, "Weapons free!" Jiho commanded. The ancient fleet opened fire. What followed wasn't a battle in any traditional sense. The warships didn't shoot missiles or energy beams. They rewrote local physics, folded space, created pockets of frozen time, turned gravity into a weapon. The silence fought back with its own impossibilities. Siwoo's ship, the Morning Star, was the first to fall. The young captain saw an opening near a smaller tear. He drove his ship forward, overloading the dimensional stabilizers. The tear sealed with a flash of light that hurt to look at, but Siwoo and his crew were on the wrong side when it closed. He did it, Doyen whispered. He actually sealed one, and died doing it, Jiho said quietly. More tears appeared. The silence was adapting, learning their tactics. Jisoo, piloting the last light, found herself surrounded. Her engineering genius kept her alive for precious minutes, but in the end, she chose sacrifice. She turned her ship into a bomb, a focused explosion of dimensional energy that sealed 3 tiers at once. The crew of the last light didn't even have time to scream. "We're losing too many," Hana shouted from her station. 17 ships left, 15. The silence is adapting faster than we can fight. Yuna's voice crackled over the comm. "Fighter wings engaging. We'll buy you time." 500 fighter craft piloted by humans and aliens alike threw themselves at the presences emerging from the tiers. They were gnats attacking giants, but gnats could distract, could irritate, could die so others might live. Yuna flew like she had been born to it, her ancient fighter dancing through impossible angles of space. She led her wing into the heart of the chaos, targeting the largest presence. They couldn't destroy it, but they could annoy it. "All wings, follow my lead. Make them focus on us." The fighters swarmed. The silence turned its attention to them. For precious seconds, the warships had breathing room. Hanul used those seconds well. The veteran captain, who had lost everything to the silence, drove his ship directly at the main tear. "For my family," he transmitted. "For my world. For everyone this thing has taken." His ship struck the tear's edge and held there, stabilizers screaming, dimensional engines overloading. He was using his vessel as a seal, his own life as a lock. "Hanul, eject," Jiho ordered. No time, and nowhere to go. The old captain's voice was calm. "Tell Earth I died well." The horizon light exploded. The main tier shuttered, started to close, but not enough. "Not yet. All remaining ships focus on the main tear," Jiho commanded. "That's our target. Everything else is secondary." The fleet reformed, 11 ships now instead of 20. They advanced on the massive dimensional wound, pouring everything they had into sealing it. The silence fought back with increasing fury. Then something changed. The smaller tiers, the ones Siwoo and Jisoo and Hanul had died sealing, started to reopen. The silence was reversing their sacrifices. "That's not possible," Hana gasped. "It's learning," Nari said. "Learning how the seals work. Finding weaknesses." Jiho felt cold certainty settle over him. They couldn't win. Not this way. Every seal was temporary. Every sacrifice was meaningless if the silence could simply undo them. "Nari, tell me the truth. How did ancient humanity seal the silence the first time?" The hologram was silent for a long moment. "We didn't seal it. We imprisoned it. And we stayed with it. Became jailers in a dimensional prison, living locks that couldn't be undone. The fleet can't do that. We'd need people, not ships." "Yes," Jiho understood. So did Hana, who turned to look at him with wide eyes. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't. You know the ancient records. The silence consumes technology. It learns from machines. But living consciousness, human will, that's different. It can't absorb that, can't adapt to it." Jiho stood up. "We need volunteers. People who will become the seal itself. That's death, Doyen protested. No, it's worse. It's eternal imprisonment. The comms exploded with voices. Captains arguing, crews protesting. But underneath it all, Jiho heard something else. Volunteers. Yuna was the first. I'll do it. This fighter is amazing. If I'm going to spend eternity somewhere, might as well be protecting people. Other pilots joined her, then crew members from the damaged ships, then, impossibly, volunteers from the alien species. Therixians who had lost their homeworld. Vren who calculated that this was the logical choice. Others who simply refused to let the silence win. Within minutes, 300 beings had volunteered to become living seals. I'm coming too, Hana said quietly. Hana, no. You need scientists who understand the dimensional mechanics. You need people who can adapt if the silence tries to break free again. She smiled sadly. And you need your best friend to make sure you don't do anything stupid in eternal imprisonment. Jiho wanted to argue. But she was right. He broadcast to the fleet. All non-volunteers fall back to minimum safe distance. Volunteers transfer to shuttlecraft. We're going into the tear. Nari's hologram flickered. There's something you should know. I'm not really an AI. I'm the digitized consciousness of the original Admiral Nari. I've been waiting here for 50,000 years, hoping humanity would find a better way. She looked at Jiho. I'm volunteering too. It's time I rejoined my crew. The shuttles launched. 300 volunteers, plus the consciousness of an admiral who had waited 50 millennia. They approached the main tear in small craft, vulnerable and exposed. The silence sensed them, turned its full attention to them. Presences descended, reality bending around them. Now, Jiho commanded. The volunteers activated the ancient neural interfaces. Technology designed to bridge human consciousness with dimensional space. They linked together, 300 minds becoming one vast network. And then they jumped into the tear. Reality twisted. Jiho felt his body cease to exist in any meaningful sense. He was consciousness without form, will without flesh. Around him, other minds burned like stars. Hana, Yuna, Nari, hundreds of others. Together they formed a net. A barrier. A living seal that wrapped around the silence and held it. The silence raged. It pushed against them. But living will was different from technology. It adapted, but they adapted faster. It tried to consume them, but they refused to be consumed. In normal space, the tear began to close. The remaining warships poured dimensional energy into the seal, reinforcing it. The volunteers' consciousness used that energy like mortar, cementing themselves into the fabric of reality. It hurt. Gods, it hurt, but it worked. The main tier sealed. Then the smaller tiers one by one as the living network spread and held them closed. In the dimensional space between moments, Jiho felt time lose meaning. He was aware of everything and nothing. He could sense the silence, huge and hungry and patient, but he could also sense his companions, their determination, their will. How long do we have to hold this? Someone asked. It might have been Yuna. It was hard to tell anymore. Forever, Nari answered. She sounded almost peaceful. This is our duty now, our eternal purpose. Then we'd better get comfortable, Hana said. Somehow, even as a disembodied consciousness, she managed to sound practical. The last message Jiho sent to the fleet was simple. It's done. The silence is sealed. Ancient human warships reappear, older than even the galactic empires themselves, trembled. The galaxy held its breath for 3 days, waiting for the silence to return. It didn't. Admiral Junho stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, watching the empty space where the dimensional tiers had been. Long-range sensors showed nothing. No distortions. No anomalies. Just normal space, as peaceful as it had been before the nightmare began. Confirmed seal integrity at 100%, reported his science officer. Whatever Captain Jiho and his volunteers did, it's holding. Junho closed his eyes. 300 volunteers. 300 people who had chosen to become eternal guardians. Among them friends, family, the bravest people he had ever known, and his son. Jiho. Broadcast to all allied fleets, Junho said quietly. The silence has been sealed. The immediate threat is over. Begin recovery operations. Across the galaxy, species that had been enemies days ago now worked together to rebuild. Therixian ships helped evacuate Vren refugees. Human vessels delivered supplies to devastated worlds. The alliance forged in desperation was holding even in victory, but it wasn't really victory. Not when so many had paid such a terrible price. On Earth, Yunji coordinated the scientific response. She had been studying the dimensional mechanics since the volunteers disappeared. The readings were clear but heartbreaking. They're still alive, she told the Planetary Council. Their consciousness exists in the dimensional barrier. They're aware, thinking, experiencing time. But they can't leave. They are the seal now. If they leave, the silence breaks free. Counselor Jiwoo asked the question everyone was thinking. Can we communicate with them? No. The dimensional barrier blocks all signals. But based on the energy patterns, they're not suffering. It's more like they're dreaming. A shared dream where they guard the door. Forever? Forever. Memorials were built. On Earth, a massive monument was erected in Seoul, listing the names of all 300 volunteers. Similar monuments appeared on homeworlds across the galaxy. The Therixians carved the names into their new capital city's foundation. The Vren encoded them into their computational networks, ensuring they would never be forgotten. The ancient fleet remained, 11 ships instead of 20. They orbited Earth now, silent guardians. No one had the heart to crew them. They were tombs and temples at once, reminders of what had been sacrificed. Weeks passed. Then months. The galaxy began to change in ways no one expected. The Galactic Council restructured itself. Humanity wasn't a threat anymore. They were heroes. And more than that, they were the inheritors of the first builders. Ancient ruins on human colonies began revealing their secrets. Technology that had been dormant for 50,000 years recognized human genetic markers and activated. Earth became a center of learning. Scientists from dozens of species came to study ancient human history. They found cities beneath ice, libraries under oceans, wonders buried in deserts. The true scope of ancient humanity's empire slowly emerged. They had been everywhere, built everything. The very foundations of galactic civilization were human creations that other species had claimed as their own. But humans didn't gloat. They shared. Every discovery, every technology, every secret was freely given to the species that needed them. Because that's what Jiho would want. Junho said when asked why humanity was so generous. He gave everything to protect the galaxy. We can at least share our inheritance. Minho, now Earth's primary representative to the Council, worked to ensure the alliance held. It wasn't easy. Old prejudices died hard. But every time tensions rose, someone would mention the 300 volunteers, the shared sacrifice that had saved everyone. It was hard to hate someone whose child or parent or friend was standing eternal watch to keep you safe. Yuna's mother visited the Seoul Memorial every week. She would stand before her daughter's name and talk to her, telling her about Earth, about the changes, about how proud she was. She wasn't alone. Families came from across the galaxy. Sometimes they met, shared stories, found comfort in shared grief and pride. 5 years passed, then 10. The galaxy thrived. The alliance became permanent. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges brought species together in ways that had never happened before. There was still conflict, still disagreement, but war seemed like a relic of a darker age. At night, sometimes, people would look up at the stars and wonder, were the volunteers aware of all this? Did they know their sacrifice had changed everything? In the dimensional space between moments, Jiho was aware. Time didn't work the same way here. 5 years felt like 5 minutes and 5 centuries all at once. He could sense his companions, their presence like warm lights in an endless twilight. Hana was there, her scientific curiosity still active, studying the strange physics of their prison. Yuna's joy remained undiminished even here. Nari's ancient wisdom guided them all, and they could sense the silence. It was still there, pressing against them, testing for weaknesses. But it couldn't break through. The living network held. Sometimes Jiho wondered if they were truly alive or something else. Dead but aware. Dreaming but awake. It was hard to say, but it didn't feel like suffering. It felt like purpose. Do you regret it? Hana asked once. Or maybe many times. Time was confusing. No, Jiho answered. We did what needed to be done. And we're still doing it. Forever is a long time. Then we'll be here forever. Together. The silence pushed harder, sensing weakness in that moment of doubt. But the network pushed back. 300 wills united against one vast hunger. The barrier held. It always held. 20 years after the sealing, Earth launched its first expedition to resettle lost colonies. Humans were expanding again, carefully, respectfully aware of the mistakes their ancestors had made. They found more ruins, more technology, more evidence of the vast empire humanity had once commanded. And sometimes in deep space, explorers reported strange occurrences. Ships that should have failed mysteriously rerouting to safety, navigation errors that corrected themselves, warnings that appeared from nowhere, guiding them away from danger. Unji studied these reports carefully. The energy signatures matched the dimensional barrier. Somehow, someway, the volunteers were still protecting people. "They're watching over us," she told Junho. "They can't communicate directly, but they're aware of what's happening, and when they can help, they do." Junho smiled for the first time in years. "That sounds like my son. Never could resist helping people." 50 years after the sealing, Junho died. He was old, tired, and ready. His last words were simple: "Tell Jiho I'm proud of him." His funeral was attended by representatives from every species in the galaxy. Therixians who had once threatened humanity now wept for a human admiral. Vren calculated the profound impact he had made and found it incalculable. And in the dimensional space, Jiho felt his father pass, felt the love and pride that came with that final message. For a moment the barrier flickered, but only for a moment. Then the network stabilized, stronger than before. Fueled by love, by memory, by the knowledge that their sacrifice mattered. The galaxy continued to change. New species were discovered. Old conflicts were resolved. The alliance grew and evolved. Humans spread across the stars, always mindful of their responsibility as inheritors of the first builders. The ancient warships remained in orbit around Earth, dark and silent. Generations of children grew up seeing them, learning their history, understanding what they represented: sacrifice, duty, love. 100 years after the sealing, a young girl named Mina stood at the Soul Memorial with her grandmother. "Tell me again about Captain Jiho," she asked. Her grandmother smiled. "He was a hero, not because he was perfect or powerful, but because when the moment came, he chose to stand. And he's still standing right now, watching over us. Will he ever come back?" "No, dear. He can't, but that's okay. Because as long as he's there, we're safe." Mina looked up at the stars, at the ancient warships visible even in daylight. "I want to be like him when I grow up. Then be brave. Be kind. Be willing to stand when others fall. That's all any hero really is." Far away, in a place between places, Jiho felt a new presence brush against the dimensional barrier. Young, curious, full of potential. He couldn't know it was Mina, couldn't know her name or her dreams, but he felt her determination, and it made him smile, or what passed for smiling in this place without form. "New generations," Hana observed. "They're growing up in the world we protected." "Good," Jiho said. "That's exactly what we wanted." The silence pushed again, as it always did. Testing, probing, seeking weakness, and the network held as it always would. 300 wills, now supplemented by the spirits of those who had passed believing in them. Yunyo was there somehow, and others. Not as guardians, but as support, as memory, as love spanning the barrier between life and death. The galaxy moved forward. Ships flew between stars. Species that had been enemies became friends. Children were born who would never know the terror of the silence, who would only hear stories of the dark time before the sealing. And through it all, the volunteers stood watch. In the dimensional space, time ceased to have meaning. Years, centuries, millennia blurred together. The galaxy might rise and fall, species might evolve and fade, but the barrier remained. Jiho thought about his father, about Earth, about all the people he had known and protected.